She called 911 and screamed, "Arrest him right now. He's trespassing on HOA property." But I was standing on the very land my grandfather left me. Her voice cut through the quiet street, sharp enough to make curtains twitch open. I hadn't even taken the padlock off the front gate when she stormed across the sidewalk, clipboard in hand like it was a weapon. 7 years. 7 years I stayed away, serving my country, and the first thing I heard back in my hometown was this woman claiming my land. I stayed calm, even though inside my chest, my heart hammered like it was still in combat. She blocked my way and shoved a paper in my face. "This notice makes it clear. You're not allowed here. The HOA took over after you left. This is our property now." I looked down at the fake stamp, the shaky signature, and I almost laughed. Almost. Because then her eyes narrowed at the duffel bag slung over my shoulder, the one with my unit patch still sewn on. "You think that uniform makes you special?" She hissed. My jaw tightened. I had buried brothers in arms who would never walk back through their own front doors, and this woman dared to spit on what I fought for. But I said nothing. I only stepped past her, my boots crunching on the driveway gravel I remembered from childhood. She gasped like I had committed some holy crime. "Fine," she shrieked into the phone. "If he won't listen, I'll get the cops. He's dangerous!" And just like that, the first patrol car rolled up, lights flashing. Neighbors peeked out, whispers rising like smoke. Karen smiled, folding her arms, certain she had me cornered. But as the officer stepped out, his eyes landed on me. And he froze. "You?" he muttered, recognition flickering in his stare. Karen's smirk faltered. And I knew then, this wasn't going to play out the way she planned. The officer's hesitation made Karen bristle. She marched right up to him, waving her clipboard. "What are you waiting for? Arrest him. He's trespassing on HOA property. I told you he broke in." But the officer didn't move. He glanced at me, then back at her. His hand rested on his belt, but not on his cuffs. More like he wasn't sure if this was even worth his time. "Ma'am, this man isn't trespassing." Karen blinked. "Excuse me? I run this neighborhood. I've been managing this land for years. He abandoned it, and the HOA rules say..." "Karen," the officer cut her off, his tone sharp now. "Do you even know who this is?" She turned to me, her face red with rage. "Some drifter who thinks wearing a uniform means he can steal property." I took a step forward, meeting the officer's eyes. "Hey, Mike." His shoulders loosened and the corner of his mouth twitched. "Haven't seen you since high school," he said quietly. "You made it back." That little line hit like a bomb in the crowd of neighbors now gathering on the sidewalk. Karen's jaw dropped. You know him?" Mike nodded. "Yeah, his family's owned this land for 3 generations. His grandfather built that house with his own hands. And this," he pointed at the fake notice Karen was still clutching, "this is garbage." Karen's face twisted in disbelief. No, you don't understand. The HOA controls everything here. He can't just show up and..." "Actually," I cut in, my voice low but steady. "I can, because the deed never left my family's name. And I've been holding on to every record, every paper, waiting for this day." Karen's lips parted, her smug certainty cracking. For the first time, I saw fear slip into her expression. She opened her mouth to protest again, but that's when a second squad car pulled up, sirens off, 2 more officers stepping out. One of them carried a folder under his arm. He walked straight to me, ignoring Karen completely. "Sir," he said, handing me the folder. "These are the updated county documents you requested. All signed and sealed, your land. No disputes," the crowd gasped. Karen's face went pale, and then she snapped. "No, this is my neighborhood. He doesn't belong here," she screamed, trying to rip the folder from my hands. The officer caught her wrist midair. "Ma'am, I think you just crossed the line." Karen yanked her arm back, but the officer's grip was firm enough to make the neighbors gasp. She shrieked, "You can't touch me! I'm the president of this HOA. I make the rules." Her voice cracked, desperate now, but her eyes still burned with that fake authority she'd been feeding off for years. Mike leaned in, lowering his voice so only Karen and I could hear. "You don't make the rules. The county does. The state does. And last I checked, impersonating officials and filing fake notices is a crime." Her face twitched, caught between fear and fury. She shoved the clipboard into his chest like it was proof. "This is legal. Everything I've done is legal." But the second officer flipped the pages over, scanning them fast. His eyebrows lifted and he let out a short laugh. This isn't even a real seal. You printed this on copy paper. He held it up so everyone could see the smudged ink bleeding around the edges. Fake notices, forged signatures. Looks like fraud to me. The neighbors' murmurs turned into outright whispers now. Some shook their heads. A woman near the back muttered, "I told you she wasn't right." I stood silent, watching her empire crumble. But Karen wasn't finished. She spun toward the crowd, her arms flailing. "Don't listen to them. He abandoned us. He left for years, and now he thinks he can come back and take over. You all know I kept this neighborhood safe." Safe? My jaw clenched. I thought about the letter I got overseas, the one from a neighbor telling me Karen had fined a widowed veteran for flying his flag too high. I thought about the family who moved out after she called child services on them just because their kids played too loud. Safe wasn't the word. "You didn't keep this place safe," I finally said, my voice cutting through the chaos. "You bullied it. You broke people down, and now it's over." Her eyes locked onto mine, wild, and for a moment I thought she might lunge at me again. But instead she did something worse. She snatched her phone from her pocket, dialed fast, and barked into it. "This man is dangerous. He's threatening me. I need backup now. Send the private security team." Private security? My stomach dropped, because I knew exactly who she was calling and they weren't real cops. The phone call ended with Karen's screech echoing down the street, and not 2 minutes later, the sound of heavy engines rumbled closer. Black SUVs rolled up, tinted windows, no plates. My gut tightened. This wasn't neighborhood security. This was a show of force. The doors swung open and out stepped 4 men in matching black uniforms, radios clipped to their shoulders, hands hovering near their holsters. They looked official enough to fool a crowd, but I knew better. Their patches didn't match any registered agency. These were hired muscle. Karen straightened, her smugness returning as she pointed at me. "That's him. He's trespassing, violent, and refusing to leave. Remove him from my property." The fake officers advanced, one of them already reaching for cuffs. The real cop stiffened, stepping between us. "Hold up," Mike barked. "Who exactly are you guys?" "Neighborhood enforcement," one of them said flatly, flashing a cheap-looking badge. "We've been contracted by the HOA president." Mike's partner snatched the badge and studied it, his brow furrowing. "This isn't sanctioned by the county. You're not law enforcement." But the tallest one stepped forward anyway, squaring his shoulders at me. "You need to come with us now." The crowd had gone dead quiet. Karen's smile stretched wider, certain she'd found her trump card. "See, I told you he doesn't belong here. Take him away." I raised my hand slowly, but not in surrender. My voice was calm, deliberate. "Careful, gentlemen. Because before you lay a hand on me, you should know something." Karen scoffed. "What could you possibly know?" I locked eyes with the tallest guard, then leaned just enough for him to hear the words clear as day. "I trained the unit that trains you." The man froze, his jaw tightening. His eyes darted to the patch still sewn onto my bag, the Special Forces insignia he recognized instantly. A flicker of doubt broke through his tough stance. Karen didn't notice. She was too busy shrieking at the real cops. "Why aren't you arresting him? He's dangerous. Do your job." But the guards had stopped moving. One of them muttered under his breath, "Wait, what's his name?" I smiled just slightly. "Exactly the one you don't want to be messing with." And in that moment, the balance shifted. The tallest guard's face drained of color, and for the first time, his confidence cracked. He tilted his head toward the others and whispered, "Stand down." Karen spun around like she'd been slapped. "What do you mean, stand down? I hired you. I pay you. Do your job." But the men didn't move. They weren't looking at her anymore, they were looking at me. Recognition spread across their faces one by one. The youngest of them muttered, "He's not bluffing. I've seen his file." The crowd erupted into hushed gasps. People leaned over their fences, phones raised high to record every second. Karen's power was slipping right through her fingers, and she knew it. She stomped her heel into the pavement like a child. "No, you don't get to back out now. He abandoned this place and I took control. Everything here is mine. Arrest him!" Mike stepped forward, his patience gone. "Karen, enough. These men are done taking orders from you, and so am I. You've faked documents, impersonated authority, and now you've brought in unlicensed armed security. You're digging your own grave." But Karen wasn't done fighting. Her face turned red, her voice rising higher. You think you can just waltz back in after 7 years and steal the power I built? No, not after all I've done to keep this place perfect. I took a breath, steady, unflinching. You didn't keep it perfect. You kept it in chains. Her eyes burned into mine, and then she snapped again. She lunged for the folder in my hands, the deed to the property, clawing like it was her last chance. But before she could touch it, one of the fake guards grabbed her arm and shoved her back roughly. "Lady, enough," he said coldly. "We're not going to jail for you." The silence that followed was heavy. Karen's mouth opened and closed. Her voice nothing but a strangled sound. She wasn't in control anymore. And then, in a final desperate move, she screamed at the crowd, "He's lying. He's not who he says he is. If he really owns this land, prove it right now." The neighbors turned their eyes on me. Phone still rolling. Karen's last chance to twist the truth. I slowly lifted the folder higher, sliding out the paper inside. The official county record with my family name in bold print. The seal was clear. The signatures were real. The dates lined up. "This," I said, my voice carrying through the quiet street, "is the only proof that matters." The crowd broke into cheers, some even clapping, the sound of justice building like a wave. And Karen, she staggered back, her face pale, her scream caught in her throat, because for the first time, she knew she had lost. Karen's face twisted as the cheers grew louder. She clutched at her hair, her voice shaking but still sharp enough to cut. "No, you don't understand. He left. He abandoned this place for 7 years. I kept everything together. I earned this land." Her words tumbled out like broken glass, and some of the neighbors who once kept quiet now shouted back. "You fined me $300 because my grass was an inch too tall. You called the cops on my daughter for chalk drawings on the sidewalk. You threatened to tow my car for parking in my own driveway." Every accusation hit her like a stone, and the crowd's anger began to build. Karen staggered back, her eyes darting around wildly, looking for someone, anyone, to side with her. But nobody stepped forward, not even the fake guards. She pointed a trembling finger at me, her voice cracking. "He's dangerous. He's a liar. You're all being fooled. He doesn't belong here." And then she made her biggest mistake yet. She snatched the folder from my hands and tore the deed in half, paper ripping loud enough for the entire street to hear. The crowd gasped. Phones caught every second. But instead of panicking, I just looked at her and smiled. "Karen," I said slowly, "you just destroyed a copy." From my bag, I pulled out a second envelope. Thicker, heavier, stamped with the county seal in bold red. I held it high for everyone to see. "The originals are already filed with the county office. That piece of paper was just for show." The crowd erupted in laughter and applause. Even the officers cracked smiles. Karen's face drained of color completely, her hand still frozen midair holding the torn scraps. Her shriek came out broken, almost a sob. No, that's not fair. You can't do this to me." Mike stepped forward, his voice firm. "Karen, you're under arrest. Fraud, harassment, impersonation, and destruction of legal property. You're done." The second officer moved to cuff her, and she thrashed wildly, screaming at the neighbors, screaming at me, screaming at anyone who would listen. "I made this neighborhood perfect. You'll regret this. All of you will regret this." But no one came to her defense. Phones kept rolling. Her power was gone, and as she was shoved into the back of the patrol car, one neighbor whispered loud enough for the cameras to catch, "Guess HOA Karen just lost her kingdom." The patrol car door slammed shut, muffling Karen's furious screams as the neighbors crowded closer. For the first time in years, people weren't afraid to speak up. Relief and anger mixed together in their voices, spilling out like water breaking through a dam. She made me repaint my house twice because she didn't like the color. She fined me for having a wreath on my door in July. She tried to evict my aunt on her own property. Every story piled up, exposing just how deep her abuse ran. Phones stayed up recording everything. By morning, it would all be on the internet. I stood silent, letting the noise wash over me. Not out of pride, but out of something heavier. This wasn't just about me. This was about every person Karen had crushed under her fake authority. One of the fake guards stepped toward me then, his voice low. "For what it's worth, we didn't know who she was messing with. We're done taking HOA jobs." He glanced back at the car where Karen's face pressed against the window, red and twisted. She thought money could buy power. Guess she was wrong. Mike clapped me on the shoulder. You coming down to the station tomorrow? You'll need to give your statement. Yeah, I said. I'll be there. The neighbors cheered again as the patrol car pulled away, carrying Karen and her empire into the distance. For the first time in years, the street felt lighter. Kids even ran out with chalk in hand, drawing flowers on the pavement as if testing the new air. A woman from across the street stepped forward, her eyes wet. We thought no one could stop her. But you did, I shook my head. No, she stopped herself. I just came home at the right time. Still, deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Karen was loud, and people like her always found ways to claw back. But she'd underestimated one thing too many times. This land wasn't hers to control, and I wasn't the man she could push around anymore. That night, after the chaos had finally died down, I stood alone in the driveway. The house was worn, the paint peeling, weeds breaking through the gravel, but it was still home. I could almost hear my grandfather's voice, steady and proud. This land is yours. Don't let anyone take it from you. The neighbors lingered, some still talking in small groups, their voices softer now. A few came over just to shake my hand. Some even saluted when they noticed the patch on my bag. I wasn't looking for thanks, but I felt something shift. For the first time, they weren't afraid of the HOA anymore. They weren't afraid of Karen. I looked down at the deed, the official seal shining under the porch light. It wasn't just paper. It was proof of everything my family built, everything Karen tried to erase, everything I fought to come back to. One of the kids with chalk ran up and drew a giant flag across the pavement. Red, white, blue, wobbly lines, but proud. His mom tried to stop him, then caught herself, smiled, and let him finish. Mike walked back over, hands in his pockets. You know, he said, most folks would have lost this place years ago. But you came back. You didn't just fight for your land. You gave everyone here a reminder of what freedom really means. I swallowed hard, my voice low. I didn't fight halfway around the world just to be told I don't belong in my own driveway. The words hung in the air, and I saw people nodding, some even wiping their eyes. The weight of it wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to all of us. As the patrol car carrying Karen disappeared into the night, I took a slow breath and turned toward the house. It needed work, a lot of it, but it was mine. And this time, no clipboard, no fake notice, no screaming voice was ever going to take it away. Because in the end, I wasn't just coming home, I was taking it back.